I spent my 2024 trying to track my reading, and today we're going to take a look at what really happened in my 2024 reading journey. Hello and welcome to Books and Boy Bands. This is Ina, and first off, I'd like to greet you a Happy New Year. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. I create videos about books mostly, and sometimes I do share about my fangirling life, especially with BTS, like merch collecting, fangirling experiences, and all that. And 2025 is a year I've been really looking forward to in terms of fangirling. So let's see this year how I'll be able to curate my memories and how I'll be able to squeeze into doing some reading with like a seemingly hectic year for Army. But yeah, thank you again for clicking on this video. If you're interested in following along my journey, please don't hesitate to click on the subscribe button. Now, I'm going to share with you, I'm super, super excited about this. This is my 2024 reading tracker. I'm a sheets girly through and through, and I always like, seeing the charts and the numbers. And I applied that to my reading journey, and I created a Google Sheet that looks into some of the details of the books that I read. I also use Goodreads, an app or a website where you can track your reading journey and find some books to read as well. So I've been using that since 2012, and it's always going to be a part of my reading experience. And I also use Fable, an app where you can create book clubs or make reading more social, but mainly I'm using it for um, its graphs as well, and its statistics, and its AI reader or book summaries like that. So yeah, anyway, so this year I'm super, super happy to report that I was able to read 100 books. This year started really strong, and then it kind of mellowed down towards the end of the latter half part of the year because I became so busy. A lot of things happened in my personal life, definitely some highs and some super lows. So reading wasn't a priority toward the latter part. So I'm happy that I started the year strong, and I still ended up having 100
Since
books read.
2020,
I set my reading goal to 104, which is basically 2 books a week. But this year I did a little forecasting, and I saw that it won't be a possibility for me to finish 104 books, especially if I look into like 2023, where I was only able to read 71 books. So I have decided that for 2024, I'll just hit 100. It seems like a good number, and we really pushed through that with trying to squeeze in some reads in December. So yeah, I was able to read 100 books. And according to the Goodreads tracker, I was able to read 33,835 pages, which again is worth celebrating. So if you look at the graphs for books read per month, you can really see how it was on a high from January to May. It's around 13 to 18 books per month, and it really changed from June to December, wherein like an average 3 books per month. And honestly, when I first looked at it, I was a little disappointed in myself, but I remembered that it's not a competition after all, and life happens. I'm 31 years old, and I manage a small business. I have a full-time job, and I have my family and social circles that also requires time. So like the summary of having 100 books after everything is still worth celebrating. So super nice. Even a book a year is still an achievement to celebrate because it's just a hobby that we love. So yeah. And this is what it looks like if you track the pages. So as you can see, my best reading months were February and March, where I read 18 books each. But if you count the pages, then the best one would be for March. And as I look back into 2024, March really was such an adventure for me because March was also the time where I was creating content a lot and trying out books that aren't really in my radar, and just really enjoying um also having my Libby card, so using the library and borrowing books, it changed the reading experience for me, and that made me hopeful as well for the rest of the year. And then I also track my average rating. And from Goodreads, it says that the average rating for 2024 is 3.8, which is quite high. I tried. I'll try to look into like the past couple of years, but so it means that I think for me it means that I usually turn into my comfort genres and my comfort authors so that my ratings are usually high. And sometimes I do tend to experiment on um, different books or authors that are new to me. So it's always a risk if I'm gonna like a book or not. But yeah, I usually give a lot of 5 and 4 stars because I rate books based on emotions and what it made me feel. So yeah, that's our average rating for 2024. So I also look into author ethnicity. As you can see in the chart, a little more than half of the books I've read are books written by white authors, and I think it's really something to be challenged because the publishing space is really more advantageous for these types of authors. But I'm super happy still with like how I'm slowly changing with like having 31 Asian authors read for 2024, 9 Black authors, and 4 Latin authors. So I'm happy with that result. Hopefully, this year will be a little more over half, particularly with Asian authored works, because this year I've been recommended a lot of books from Japan, translated fiction from Japan. So I'm hoping to have more Asian reads on my shelf. Now, for formats read, I'm still much an audiobook girly with 65 audiobooks read this year, but I'm happy that I was able to read 12 physical books this year. So, like a physical book a month, and then 23 ebooks, mostly arcs and um, books I borrowed from the library as well. Now, for the genres, this is what I'm super happy about. I know it's really obvious that I'm a contemporary romance and mystery thriller girly. So, this year I read 39 contemporary romances, 33 mystery thrillers, but I'm still happy because I was able to experiment more this year. As you can see in this pie chart, there's a lot of other genres that I was able to try, even though it's a handful per genre, but it's still quite an achievement. Like I was able to read 10 literary fiction books. And with literary fiction, it was a love that I discovered this year. I think I'm at the right mindset and the right age as well to really read and understand literary fiction and also crave for this type of lyrical writing or deeper meanings and discussions that also tackle slice of life things aside from my usual go-to kilig and smut and maybe whodunits. So I think I want to explore also more literary fiction books moving forward. And then I also have 4 horror books, 3 historical romance books, 3 biographies or memoirs, 1 dark romance book, 3 science fiction or fantasy books, 1 historical fiction, 1 women's fiction, 1 true crime book, and 1 graphic novel. So this year, I hope I get to continue this one, but I want to see my charts more spread out. I know I would always lean towards romances and thrillers, but I don't know. I think having a sprinkle of all the genres is super exciting to have. Now, for audiences, it's really obvious that I'm leaning more towards adult books because sometimes I think I'm no longer the right audience for young adult books. But of course, there are authors who write young adult beautifully and still teach us lessons even to those of us who are adults already. So I think I'll still try to pick up some young adult books, especially if I feel like they are calling to me so hard. So there. Next, we go to our series versus standalones. So I read 65 books that are standalones and 35 books that belong to a series. I don't usually tend to read incomplete series, but I also don't get to finish series that I pick up. So hopefully, I sure get to like do an inventory of the books I've read, because on Goodreads it says I have around 1,200 books read, and look through the series that I haven't really finished, and maybe continue them maybe this year or the years to come. I don't know when the spring cleaning of my Goodreads is gonna happen, but that's something that I want to try and make a video out of. So there. Now for copy sources, 67 of my books came from Libby, which is an app that lets you borrow books from different public libraries. And aside from tracking the copy source, I did a Libby savings page here on my tracker, wherein I put in the books and the titles, and I try to look into um, online commerce sites like Fully Booked and National Bookstore. I also looked into Shopee and Amazon for books that I can't find here from those stores. And it actually says that because from borrowing from the library, I was able to save up 53,621 and 58 pesos at the time where I was able to record those prices, because of course the exchange rate changes a lot. But I'm super happy with being able to use that resource, especially for like newer titles, or you know me, an audiobook girly. Libby is like the perfect platform for me to be able to enjoy audiobooks. And for someone who, you know, is very busy, audiobooks are really the perfect way for me to still keep on reading. So, yeah, those 67 books are borrowed from Libby. So, thank you so much, Libby, for that. I also read 13 arcs, 3 books that were gifted to me, 14 books that I bought, and 3 books from Everand, which is also known as Scribed or Script. I used that before switching to Libby because I couldn't. I wanted to save up some money, and a friend encouraged me to try Libby and borrow from the library instead. So, yeah. And as you can see, I was able to read 14 books that I already own physically and on Kindle. And this year, I that will be changing when we talk about my reading goals later. Now, with author familiarity, I read 60 authors that are new to me. And it's because, you know, of course, I only read 1,200 books since I was a teenager. And I know there are thousands of authors out there. So discovering 60 new authors are is a very fun achievement. I hope I discover more new authors this year. But I'm also happy that I was also able to read books by authors who I already know. I read 15 books from authors I've read once before, and 12 books from authors I read multiple times, and 13 books from my auto buy, auto read authors. Now, for star ratings, it's quite spread out, but I could still see that 2024 was successful because I was able to get 25 5-star reads and 36 4-star reads, which is quite a lot. Again, I do tend to give out a lot of 4 and 5 stars, but I still have 30 books I gave 3 stars to, and 8 books I gave 2 stars to. So in the coming weeks, days, or maybe weeks, I'll be sharing with you like my top 12 out among the 25 books I gave 5 stars to. I also will be talking about those 8 books I gave 2 stars to, and maybe 2 more books that I gave 3 stars to, but I felt I was disappointed by. So those are 2 videos I'm sure will be up. So basically the best and worst of my 2024 reading. I also have this um goal of looking into reading more Filipino books, and for 2024 I was able to read 12 Filipino books, which is roughly 1 a month, and I think that's again another achievement. I also look into seeing books based on the year they were published to see if I'm more of a new release reader or a backlist reader. So I read 18 books that were published in 2024, 21 books that were published in 2023, and then 40 books that were published within 2018 to 2022, and 13 books that were published within 2012 to 2017, and 8 books that were published 2011 and earlier. So I think it's pretty spread out. So I'm happy with my performance. And I think that's going to continue in 2025. This year also introduced this spice rating thing where as a romance girly, I look into the spice ratings of the books I read, and most of them are not applicable because I read other genres. So 44 didn't count. I just looked into 56 of my books, and 23 of those were vanilla. 13 were one spice level, 9 were level 2, and 11 were level 3. These are just like numbers I assigned randomly. So for 2025, I think I'll be more particular with what level 1, level 2, and level 3 would mean. So there. I also looked into the book length because I want to know if I lean towards thicker books or thinner books. And with that, I have 12 books that are less than 250 pages, 43 books that are within 251 to 350 pages, 35 books that are within 350 to 450 pages, and then 5 books that are within 451 to 550 pages, and 5 books that are more than 551 pages long. So I was surprised. I thought I only read books that are like within the 350 to 400 range, which is mostly um the results. But I was surprised that I actually read 10 books that were super long already for me. So that's an achievement. I hope I also, and that's like a personal thing, I hope I get to try in this year 2025 to pick out longer books just because. Now let's go to some Goodreads awards, or like the superlatives they give out. So the shortest book I was able to read was Heartstruck by Anjali E. Domato from romance class, and it's 124 pages long. So usually romance class books are just this long. And then the longest book I read was Pucking Around by Emily Rath. It's 756 pages, and if you can believe me, most of that are just smut. And then the book I read this year that was most shelved on Goodreads is The Silent Patient, with 4.8 million people also having this book on their shelves. And then the least shelved book is All the Lonely People by Kanika Claudine Di Pena, wherein 71 other people had this on their shelves. And then the book that was highest rated on Goodreads was Know My Name by Chanel Miller. This is a memoir about the experience of Chanel Miller. And it was rated 4.7 on Goodreads, and I personally gave it a 5-star rating. Now, when it comes to Fable, some things that I did note is that number one, they considered me having a hot take for Court by Tracy Wolf because I gave it a 2-star rating. I didn't really like the book, and Court made me decide not to continue on with the series anymore. And then they also have The Silent Patient as like one of the most famous books on the platform. It says I am found guilty of riding the hype train, with 274,000 other Fable readers having this book on their shelves. And then I was found guilty of being too niche, being one of the other people who had Budget is the New Black by Claire Betita de Guzman on my reading list. And then I was found to be in the top 1% of foodie readers, in the top 5% of mystery readers, and in the top 5% of true crime readers. At the end of it all, they summarized my reader personality as passion plate, and it is a description that says your insatiable appetite for drama-filled tales would make a soap opera look modest. Still, you savor life's high-stakes flavor. And yeah, if you have your own Fable and you have this reader summary, please let me know in the comments what it's like, just because I'm a little curious. So those are the things about my 2024 reading. Now, I would like to share with you my 10 reading goals for 2025. So this year, I have my main goal of reading without pressure. I found myself, if I focus more on creating content for books, particularly like in book talk where it's very fast paced, here on booktube as well, I tend to focus more on the numbers instead of the experience. So this year, I want to be more mindful of how I approach my reading. Yes, I still create bookish content. Yes, I still want to read as many books as I can because there's just so many good books available. But I want to really absorb the books I read and not really focus on the numbers and not let myself get lost and burn out and have the same experience with 2024 wherein I read as much as I can and then almost not read at all. So these are the 10 reading goals that will be guiding me still. I wanted originally to approach it with a non-numerical reading goal, but the logical part of me really needs the numbers. So we're doing it that way. So in 2025, I'm changing my reading goal from the usual 100 to 104 books to just 77 books. And the reason why is because of my second reading goal, which is to read one physical book a week. In this channel, I usually upload so much books, so many videos, and then disappear at a time. And I want to be more steady and constant, someone who would be with you um, throughout the year, and someone who has something to look back to at the end of 2025. So I've decided to introduce the series One Book a Week, wherein my minimum goal really is to just read a book a week. But to make it more fun and more exciting, I decided to make it one physical book a week as a personal reading goal. And also to make it like maybe a reading vlog or a reading review video. It doesn't really matter, but just like to have a book video up once a week wherein I talk about one book a week. So with that, we'll be having 50 books read, and I know personally that I would still be reading some audiobooks. So that's why I decided to have 77 as my goal for 2025. And the number 7 is just because I love BTS. So a double 7. So that's really all it is. But yeah, so again, my first reading goal is to read 77 books, and partnered with that is to read a physical book a week for my one book a week video series. And then my third reading goal for this year is to complete my 25 books from 25 friends in 2025. So I message a lot of my friends from Bookstagram, Book Talk, Booktube, and Facebook, basically Filipino bookish community, and to ask them about books that they would like to recommend. So I did not have any parameters for this. I just asked them to recommend me any book that they enjoyed reading, as long as it's not high fantasy, because that's something that my brain cells couldn't handle. So I'll also make a video talking about those 25 books, and I'll be reading realistically two books from these recommendations in 2024, but I'm not restricting myself to any format, so it can be an audiobook, physical book, or an ebook. And then my next, number 4, reading goal is to read 12 books by Filipino authors. It's what my performance was in the past year. So I'm hoping to read at least one Filipino authored book a week. And many of those Filipino friends did recommend me some Filipino authored books. So I think this goal is really achievable. And I also would like to support my friend Kat and Sai's um project Akdang Pinoy, and I think it's continuing to 2025. So yeah, I'm really hopeful about my personal Filipino reading experience. I have still a lot of my books from the Philippine Book Festival I was able to go to last year. So I really have a lot of books I could pick out at any time. So there. With that, I did not set a goal on audiobooks, but I did set a goal on ebooks because I have my Kindle Paperwhite, um, which is a gift from my parents. when I started this channel. So 2020, I've had it for 4 years, but it's really not used a lot. So I think at the least, I would like to read an ebook a month, or just 12 ebooks anytime within the year, just so I could still use my Kindle. And then, partnered with that, I would like to read 12 arcs or gifted books. So I do still have some arcs here, that were sent to me by the very, very kind authors and publishers. And I do have some gifted books because I like joining Goodreads giveaways. So I have a lot um, on the backlist, and I have some 2025 releases coming in as well. Goal number 7 is that I'd like to read one nonfiction book. I'm a fiction girly throughout. So I know it's like would be forever my default setting, but just for a challenge, I would like to read one nonfiction book, and most probably it will be a memoir. And then, goal number 8 is to read a classic. I am a contemporary girly all throughout, forever and ever. And I have a sister who loves the classics, and she has this own like reading style, reading behavior, and I don't know, I would just like to try it out. I've always said I would never read a classic because it may be too hard for my brain, but I'm 31 now, turning 32 soon, so maybe my brain is a little more mature to handle the classics. So if you have like beginner friendly classic recommendation, please let me know in the comments below. And then my goal number 9 is to start and complete a trilogy or a series in 2025. Because again, as I mentioned, I have a behavior of starting a series, waiting it for it to be finished, and then not really following up on reading the rest of the series. And there are a lot of beautiful series out. I have a couple of series in mind. Most probably it would be A Good Girl's Guide to Murder because I started it last year and didn't finish the first book, so I might pick it up. I might also consider the Elsie Silver series that I have. So there's a lot of contemporary romance and maybe young adult fantasy options for me. And then number 10 is something that's really chill, but I've been meaning to do so in a long time, but I haven't yet. And it's to reread an old favorite. So I have a lot of favorites. I again have to do a little Goodreads look up on what were my favorites along the years. So, and I, again, because I feel like there are so many books to read, so many new books every single week, I don't usually believe in the concept of rereading books, but I think it's about damn time. So this time we're gonna read a favorite, at least one, throughout 2025. So those are my reading goals, and that was my 2024 year in review. I am super happy that I got the courage to like sit down and film this video and use my booktube channel again and be inspired about books again. So I hope you join me in this journey. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you're still here till the end, thank you so much. And I hope I get to see you next time with another bookish video. May you always be in the mood for reading. Bye.